The speed of change within the world of artificial intelligence is accelerating. Quantum computing introduces an entirely new dimension. What is that dimension, and what does it mean to you? Quantum AI offers opportunities in application development, security, improved supply chains, and it increases Team Canada competitive advantages. Join our exceptional panel as we dig into what's ahead in the dizzying and exhilarating world of quantum-powered artificial intelligence. Hello, I'm Stuart McNish, and you're listening to Conversations Live. Conversations Live is a long-form public affairs dialogue series addressing the big issues of our time. For each episode, we bring together subject matter experts for a deep conversation designed to provide you with information that helps you make more informed decisions. I hope you enjoy it. So today we come to you from Kem-Kemalé, the land of many maples. These are the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish First Nations who have lived on and continue to call these lands home. OCM. So Conversations Live is a long-form public affairs dialogue program or platform that digs into the issues of our times. And quantum-powered AI is at the forefront of the issues that can ensure Canada navigates the uncertainties of our times and emerges stronger. Our panelists are international superstars in the development of AI, quantum, and now the marriage of the two. And we are the invited guests to their union. Happening here today. There'll be a buffet afterwards. We have much to celebrate in this coupling here in Vancouver and, of course, across Canada. You know, Canada, as you, Stephanie, pointed out, is a contender in this realm thanks to early investments in the sector, a strong research ecosystem, a focus on talent development, and a collaborative environment that has produced a solid foundation for advantages in quantum, AI, and the wedding of the two. Add to this solid foundation, the National Quantum Strategy and ongoing funding initiatives which further solidify Canada's position in this transformative technology. The question is, are we ambitious enough to adopt this technology and strive to become global? For anyone wishing to send in a question to our panel, which I'm just going to introduce in a moment, you can submit a question to me using slido.com. Enter the code Conversations Live and send in a question. Now, I'll receive those questions here on a laptop, and while I may not share your question verbatim, it will help to inform me about some of the questions that I'll put to our panel. So let me now introduce to you our panelists. Walter Pella, the Regional Managing Partner at KPMG. Walter, will you join us on stage? David Seymour, whom you just heard as a speaker, is the Vice President and General Manager of Microsoft. Stephanie Simmons, who is already on the stage, Founder and Chief Quantum Officer at Photonic. I'm going to get you to explain a little bit more about Photonic and why it's so revolutionary in quantum, because the more I read about it, I was like, wow. Albert Van Veen, who is the VP of Information and Chief Technology Officer at Vancouver International Airport. And Sue Paish, the CEO at Digital. Sue, I'm going to let you have just a moment to get your seat because the first question is going straight to you. We just heard from Stephanie and David about the dynamic future of AI and quantum computing. I mean, there's lots of opportunities. Now, in recent conversations, and it also came up here a little bit today, we're both keen and we're a little bit frustrated at the way things get developed in Canada. So let's start with maybe your frustrations, if I'm not being too bold here or too harsh, and then I'll get you to move towards what you envision is possible.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Stuart. Big thanks to KPMG for putting this on. This is amazing. So yeah, let's start with the frustrations and telegraph a little bit of what Ajay talked about. AI in many ways was founded in Canada. Jeff Hinton, Yoshio Bengio, the godfathers of AI. It was commercialized in the United States. As of last year, 9% of Canadian companies, in response to a cross-country survey, were using or thinking of using AI in their companies. That ranks Canada 20 out of 35 in the OECD. Korea, Sweden, Denmark are around 25%. And so the frustration is that we have everything that we need to win this race. If we just thought about it like hockey, and thank you, Stephanie, for bringing in a hockey reference. If we thought about it like hockey, we're in the third period here. We got the puck, and we're on a power play. Don't blow it. And yet we've seen that happen with the development of technologies and then the slow adoption. So that's the frustration. Here's the optimism, and most of the rest of this conversation is going to be optimistic, I hope, on the panel. Here's the optimism, is we've got, and some of you know, we've got a crazy-ass model in digital. And the model is bring a whole group of organizations together that wouldn't normally sit at a table together and have them solve some of society's and industry's biggest problems. So put innovators, multinationals, academics, governments, community organizations around a table to try and solve some problems. I'll just give you two quick examples. I was at the Growth Summit last week, and interestingly, nobody was really talking about AI and quantum that much. They were talking about critical minerals. There wasn't a single presentation that didn't talk about critical minerals. Some of the largest deposits of critical minerals on the face of the planet are here in Canada. Problem is, they're hard to get to. That's a big problem. That's a problem we floated in 2019 to our group of companies that we work with. And I'm super excited and proud to say that the consortium that's working around that problem, a little tiny company out in Richmond called Ideon, a little tiny mining company called Fireweed, and then 5 of the 6 largest mining companies in the world. Ideon, working with that kind of crowd and MyTax and some others, developed the world's first Earth X-ray machine using muon tomography and artificial intelligence so that we can discover, measure, and quantify critical mineral deposits up to 1 kilometer into the earth. Why is that important? Because most of the critical minerals that are near surface have long ago been extracted. That technology started to take hold with this little company called Fireweed, and then BHP called, the largest mining company in the world, called Richmond, British Columbia, and said, hey, can we look at your technology? And now, as I've said, 5 of the 6 largest mining companies are using that. It's put Ideon on the map. They're now into block caving. Block caving is technology that you need to use to get narrow vein. A lot of the mineral deposits are narrow vein. You can't get at them. You can't get at them cost effectively. And so that's the excitement, is when we think differently and we act differently. When we listen to people who think differently than we are thinking, when they do things differently than we are doing them, and we embrace that as an opportunity, not push it away as a threat, Canada can do great things.
Albert, I want to come to you because David referenced you in the amazing work that you've done in creating a digital twin of the airport. Why is it so important that you get way out ahead, especially in the aviation sector, in creating this digital twin, and what opportunities does it present for the airport to commercialize what you're doing?
Yeah, so first of all, as well, thank you for inviting me here as not being Canadian, a Dutch person. So I apologize in advance for my double Dutch accent sometimes. And I learned a lot already about hockey, which in Holland is field hockey and ice hockey here. So I'm kind of, but I think it gives me a good perspective on what's happening in the rest of the world as well. And yeah, I was just wearing these glasses, which I used to make some photos of the speakers and the videos that were shown before. So these are electronic glasses. And I think the digital twin that we developed in Vancouver, and I was actually thinking I got a frustration question as well. So I had already a list of frustrations. And we have them as well. And I think there are many things where we are behind.
We can come back to that.
We'll come back to that. As Vancouver Airport, we're also behind on certain elements. But where we are really ahead in the world, and that's a decision not taken by me, but by some people about 4 or 5 years ago, is in developing the digital twin. And why am I holding those glasses? Well, I see the digital twin, they are the glasses that we have on our airport. So we have a replica, a digital replica of what is happening at the airport. We see what's going on. For example, we see, as we had today, unfortunately, a queue at security. People, all our people, they have the digital twin on the mobile phone. They see the event, they get a warning, and they can take an action. So the glasses, the digital glasses, we implemented with the digital twin.
So does the digital twin do that predictive work for the people in the security line so they then deploy the right resources? Is that literally what it's doing?
Well, at the moment, currently, it's kind of a digital replica that gives you warning signs. So you can see what's going on, what goes wrong, and where do I need to take action. The brains that we are currently using is still our people, because they see what's happening and they will call the security organization to send more agents to get the queue away. And I think by having this digital twin, by having these glasses, these kind of digital glasses on the airport, what's going on, we are now in the ideal situation, and I would say the strongest of all airports in the world, to also start implementing AI, because with AI we suddenly get something new, which is not only your digital glasses, but it's basically a replica of your brain that can start to help our people to take those actions. So instead of calling the agency ourselves, we're our people, the AI and the AI agents, or AI buddies, as we call them, they could start to help our people in doing that. They could give us a warning, there will be a queue in half an hour, so shall I already inform the security company? So looking at starting position of Canada, and why is the digital twin so important? I think as YVR, we have the best situation of all airports in the world, because we have those glasses, we have those sensors at the airport, so we can make a head start now with implementing artificial intelligence.
You talk about your digital buddy or your agent. David, can you give us a little better sense of what an agent is? Because I know that Walter is, of course, very focused on this as well. Because I'm starting to go, okay, well, am I just sitting there typing into my computer, or is this going to be like an assistant that's walking around with me?
I think that's the easiest mental model to start with. It's an assistant. But assistant, you're still asking for things, and they're helping you respond. So we're familiar, I use Copilot, I use ChatGPT, I use Siri, that's assisting me. And that's the generative AI we're used to in this first wave. I type a prompt, I get something back. But an agent is more, the mental model is it's like an employee. It works for you. It has some goals. It has tasks you've given it that it wants to achieve. And it has some autonomy. And then it can interact with its environment. It's a digital-only environment if it's an online agent doing work for you on the internet. But in Albert's case, it could be an agent that can see the physical world at the airport, so it can interact with that environment. And it just works around the clock on that job that you've given it. And that's the shift to imagine a virtual employee that can actually reason intelligently and do things for you.
Can I just talk to it and give it instructions the way that I do an employee?
That's a choice. You could choose to make it multimodal and speak to it with your voice. You could choose to give it instructions by prompt. You could be deploying it much more from your IT department, but you will soon have a lot of these agents working for you, maybe in the financial areas of your life, some in more operational areas of your life, some in health and fitness or whatever it might be, right?
But unlike the employee, they won't turn off at 5 o'clock. They'll keep working through the night.
They run all the time, yeah.
How important is it as we start to move to this level of data that we introduce quantum? Stephanie, what role does quantum play in our ability to do this? Because what we're talking about right now is still a year or two out, is it not? And without the computing power that quantum brings to the equation, we're still on the edges.
Yeah, I can take that for sure. So I think it's going to be one of these situations where, like we were talking about at the start of the internet, these things are new physical structures. So we're going to have to get manufacturing into the game, which means they're not going to be available to everybody, certainly not in a cost-effective way out of the gate, right? It'll definitely be who the rich gets richer and gets access to this like hyper intense computational power. As that drives down, yeah, you can then augment existing workflows with this exponential gain in computing capability. But you're going to be targeting the high ROI at the start. But that's just the computational side. That's when I wanted to be a little bit of a sobering note and say, well, that's the defensive side needs to flow across everybody now, right? We do need to go and think about our cybersecurity, especially even in the world of AI, we should be thinking about cybersecurity quite intensely, because those agents could be working for lots of different organizations out there, right? So let's just go and clean that all up right now. And in doing so, we can prepare ourselves to make the most of this next exponential gain in technology. And then, yeah, we're going to see manufacturing take that across the entire spectrum of everything we do. But it will take time. The adoption, the change management, that will take time. But the first ChatGPT moment for quantum will be the disruptive thing that we can get prepared for today as well. Yeah.
And next to impossible to do without quantum computing. Tell me a little bit about photonic, because people go, oh yeah, photonic, but you're using light waves. You're transforming the way in which quantum computing takes place. What are the advantages of that from an energy perspective, from speed, from versatility?
Well, yeah, thanks for setting me up. That's great. So quantum basically came out, and over the past couple decades, it's followed the very traditional approach of disruptive technologies, where it exists in academia for like 20 years. And then there's this Cambrian explosion of different ideas. And then there's a dominant design slowly emerges. And we're kind of in that Cambrian explosion phase. What's different about us is that I'm a quantum native. I came up through the ranks when there already existed some of the options on the table, and you could take a look at what was there, and it says, well, this wasn't, this is not innovating, this is not clicking quite the right way, at least if you're going to be pattern matching against what's worked for classical systems. So what's different about us is that we build in silicon, our qubits are amazing, all that's fine, table stakes. But the picture that we brought to the table is to think that networks are really the unlock. What you need is lots and lots of these resources. You don't want to just have one box that can do one thing. You want to be able to deploy at scale, and that means manufacturing and density on chip. So silicon brings you that density piece, but what we can get to deploy quickly, which is why we're going to go and try and attach that market, get to that market as quickly as possible, is to link different boxes together. And that was just not the way that people were thinking about things. They just, in academia, you make one perfect thing, you make the next one perfect thing, and you just go and, keep making that candle better. You're not thinking about necessarily the light bulb. But if you go and you work backwards from what's needed to deliver on this exponential power, all these like the code-breaking machines, the chemistry, the AI, the financial models, all of those like applications that give us that exciting opportunity, work backwards from that, you're really going to want to have lots of these resources. So we can link our boxes together. We were the first commercial offering that can do distributed quantum computing, where you can put them all together, so we can fill data centers and are off to the races. So that's a little summary.
So by using photonics, is your energy requirement dramatically
Yeah, you asked
lessened?
about that. You're right, sorry. But that one is absolutely the case for most quantum systems. If we go and think about the 50 qubit systems I was talking about, the 53 logical qubits is equivalent to the world's biggest supercomputer today. And if you were to add 54, then it would be 2 supercomputers. And the energy needs on that is like 100 kilowatts as opposed to megawatts. It's just because it's the physics of information is just different. Like information is physical. We like to think about it as something off in the air, but it actually is represented by a physical thing that's moving around somewhere. And if you're using different physical laws, you get different upsides, such as the energy. You're absolutely right. Thank you for reminding me.
So a little shift here, Walter. How does somebody who's in the audience here going, I'm listening to all this stuff, it's big scale. I want, because as David, you pointed out, and everybody else has, that people in this room are leaders, or you're moving towards this. But I think most of you are a little bit like me. How do I get started? You say start digitizing. But how do I go out and start to find tools that I go, yeah, I want to be an early adopter? Walter, what you're doing, what are some of the advantages that you bring to medium and small size business, as well as your larger clients?
Yeah. By the way, I really like the use case of Save On Foods optimizing with quantum. So you can approach things with proofs of concept like that. But I think, and I really like David's message of start with your data. When we get into our clients, that's often where we start. You can't really adopt AI without having your data ready. And so that's a project that you need to start on right away. So look, the way we help clients is depending on where they are on their journey. And everybody in here is going to be at different phases, even though we're 3 years into that big shift of the ChatGPT moment, if you will. But so whether it's having a strategy, investing all the way through to developing the capabilities and the competencies, and the message that was delivered today that we got to move beyond the tinkering and into actually thinking about ROI and specific use cases. That's what we're spending a lot of time with our clients on.
Sue?
Yeah, just slipstreaming behind. I always slipstream behind you, Walter. You know, when we get
So thank you.
when we get small or large companies coming to us with the, you know, I don't have the time, I'm too busy, I can't get involved. One of the ways we framed it is, what's your biggest opportunity next week, next month, and 5 years from now? You might not even see 5 years from now, but think of the biggest BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal that you really want to take on, and then think about how technology is going to help you, which most often will be AI these days, and maybe quantum. I'm just going to give you a little example here. With a little company, I think they're in Richmond, they might be in Surrey, called Quantum Bridge. And these are a couple of young guys that are thinking about security, data security issues going to arise when we get quantum computing. And they were talking to us about what's going to happen when we get quantum computing and the cybersecurity issues that are going to come out about that. And they thought that they could do something to help with that. So I said, we said, so like what? And they started to go down a path. And so we put a little group together to see if they could explore actually building something that could be effective in industry. And the first party that signed up to that project is Thales. And not Telus, the phone company, Thales. And you might be thinking, who's Thales? Look at the back of your credit card. Look at the security chip on the back of your credit card. Thales builds those. They're from France. And so arguably one of the most significant companies for us in terms of our financial operations, our financial security, calls a little company in British Columbia and says, let's work on this together. So when companies are thinking this is too big or too outrageous, you know, it may feel that way, but think about the most significant thing you would like to do with your company in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years, and then have a conversation around how technology, in particular AI, and potentially quantum will help, because it will.
Albert, I think you want to jump in right now too.
Well, I think it's kind of, it's funny because we focus here a lot of on work, and of course that is the main topic, how can we improve our work? And it was already said, what can AI improve for work that is currently done on the computer? I think there is a lot more it can do. And I'm also a person, of course, and I'm a father of 4 children, and I have a wife. And a British wife, total disaster, but that's a side wave. But I also start to use it to manage my children and to manage my wife. So, for example, if I need to read...
Do they know this?
The last thing is very unsuccessful so far.
Yeah.
The last thing with my wife is almost impossible. But with children, it really starts to help me a lot. So how do I use it? When I need to read the story in the night, I ask ChatGPT, I give it a few kind of credentials about my children, what their name is, what they like to do, and it reads a personal story. So I still read the story sometimes myself, but I also ask my own personal agent, my daddy agent, instead of a buddy agent, a daddy agent, to help me out on certain things. So I think the impact will be a lot wider than work, a lot wider than what we discussed so far. And by trying those kind of things yourselves, which a lot of our people are doing already. When I look in YVR, the people in the organization, they have lots of ideas about using AI. I think it's more about us not stopping them with all kind of different rules and unlocking kind of the energy that is over there. And I think that's the way to start. Start to use it yourself and start to use it in day-to-day life.
So did you build your own digital buddy? Or where can I go get my digital buddy?
Well, I think there are a few people over here that would love to deliver it to you. But no, but I think that there are so many good tools out that you can program yourself. You can give them. You can make bots that help you better. And for example, I love Monica because it's giving you a summary of all the different AI tools that are out there. It's an
Monica.
AI aggregator, Monica.
Okay.
It's a nice name as well. You have to explain it to your wife before she finds out. But But I think try it out, and there is so much available.
Well, the scary part is that even companies that think they're not using AI are using AI because their employees are using AI the way Albert's describing it, and with workarounds, uploading information that shouldn't be uploaded, and adopting it in a way that isn't secure, that isn't thoughtful and strategic. So,
Well, you know, let's just pull on that string a bit, because I think you've hit the nail on the head. To me, AI is now a little bit like the blood in our circulatory system. It is everywhere. And as long as you're keeping it healthy and using it, you know, deploying it and effectively, it will really, really help you. But for folks that think AI adoption is a tactical exercise where I'm going to do this and turn it on and then I don't have to worry about it, or I don't have to think about it, it's really I think it's a shift in mindset in terms of how we lead our businesses, how we lead industry, and how we, even in your case, read stories. The thing that I think we still have to embrace and capture is the opportunity in some of the biggest areas of the country, and let's talk about healthcare. Healthcare is the single biggest budget line in every provincial budget. It is growing faster in every provincial budget than GDP. It is going to bankrupt the country. It must embrace, our health systems must embrace AI. And for years, there's been a complete resistance to that. And I think COVID opened it up a little bit to allow us to start to use AI. But I think as business leaders, yeah, we've got to embrace it ourselves and in our organizations. And I think we need to take it the next step. And, you know, we've got some stuff going on in digital. We've got digital AI, or we've got an AI assistant that is now working with home care companies to actually read the patient notes that the home care worker is writing, and then predicting to the home care worker, these are the issues that are arising from what your observations are, reducing the time needed, increasing the positive outcomes, reducing the costs. Because I'll tell you, in our healthcare system, just add people will not work. We have to add AI.
So yeah, David, you were telling us this wonderful story about how AI and Fraser Health, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Is that where you're going to go?
That's exactly.
I was going to go there, but also
Yeah.
I just wanted what Sue's getting at is when someone says the word AI, you can almost just replace it with the word technology now. Like, we're not going back. This is synonymous. And when you deploy traditional compute, if you deploy reasoning instead, there's almost always more value. The healthcare example is super interesting. And one of our major healthcare systems, Fraser Health, you know, was testing AI diagnostics, and it's extremely accurate. Like, it's like 98% accurate. But the big issue is acceptance testing. Like, are people willing to be diagnosed by an AI? And sort of the seemingly counterintuitive result was that they vastly prefer it to being diagnosed by their doctor, because it is infinitely empathetic, infinitely patient. They can ask questions for hours. It respects their privacy, and they are not a sick person in the presence of a healthy person being judged. They have this complete sort of control over this experience, and it take as long as they want. So that was surprising to me, but then it makes sense when you think about it. And with, you know, ChatGPT and a lot of these systems we talk to a lot now having infinite memory of all of the conversations you've ever had. They remember everything about you, and they're perfectly empathetic and interested in you. This is a very powerful thing that is coming. But then just to, perhaps you're going to Stephanie next, what I would say about quantum and AI in health is that, you know, when Steph explained that even just something like the metabolic process in the body, like the chemicals are so complicated because they're quantum objects that we don't even really understand most of the physical processes in the body. But where we're going is towards N=1 medicine, like the idea that massive health patterns that are sort of true of populations aren't true for individual people. And in a perfect world, everything will be resolved to the individual and their responses. When you combine AI and data models with quantum, there's a future where something like N=1 medicine impacting the effect of a drug or a treatment on like the actual individual person's biology will literally be achievable in our lifetimes.
I'd love to build on that, and then also see another and link in another parallel. So the other way that you combine these two is not just using the fact that quantum systems do natively use matrix multiplication for the way they work. Like, it's not like flicking the light switch. Classical information is flicking light switches. Quantum is entanglement. Everything's all entangled. It all gets acted on all at the same time. That's why you can get to use different algorithms. But so that can be used for AI pieces and the rest. But you can also use the data that quantum systems can predict to feed into classical AIs, which can then be deployed everywhere. So it's, again, the interaction of these things is going to be phenomenally exciting. But I was just reflecting on some of the points, and I don't mean to pivot the conversation, but everything that was said about healthcare and technology could be applied to education just as well, right? So there's a lot of opportunity to think about the deployment and refactoring to the judgment side rather than, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of procedural work that can be done. And for both of these industries, what I've seen is that the people that end up being promoted throughout that industry come from that space, and so they don't usually bring a disruption lens to the challenge. But so if there's an ecosystem of disruption, then there's an opportunity to say, hey, yeah, let's connect these things together and see what we could do to, really help the public purse on this stuff. We do want to have education and healthcare as widely deployed as we can, and we should be really double-clicking on how we can leverage all these new innovations to drive down costs, because that's what technology does, which was shared earlier today too.
If we do all of this, we're going to create a considerable amount of economic activity here in British Columbia, and a lot of this will be services and products that we can sell to export markets. It's the benefit is quite great. Can we seize on it? Walter? Like, we just had a federal election. If you were talking to the Prime Minister, what policy changes would you like to see him implement that can allow us to take the energy that's in this room right now and continue to propel it forward? Hang on, I've got him on the phone.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'll answer on. That's a good question. I'll answer on one policy that's actually on the new government's docket that hopefully we'll see come to pass, which is something that the Canadian Council of Innovators have been asking for a long time, which is the patent box regime. So that's a tax change that would allow the commercialization of Canadian intellectual property at a very low rate, and so it would allow and incent development of intellectual property in Canada, and then retaining it, which has been a challenge for us here in Canada, retaining that intellectual property here to build the financial benefits and accrue the financial benefits. So from exporting innovation and exporting technology, that's actually and it's a page from, there's other countries that have adopted it, whether it's Ireland or the UK, and so I think that's really positive. There's a couple other measures. They want to introduce flow-through shares for venture funding in quantum and AI, in advanced technologies, like the mining flow-through shares, so that you can flow out R&D to investors. So that'll help raise capital.
Is that one of the roadblocks that stops us from being as effective as we could be, from going from the lab to commercialization? Because not only in healthcare, in the pharmaceutical sector, here, I mean, we run into this same roadblock. We're really good at the development and innovation stage. Moving to commercialization, we're going to set up a Delaware corporation. The next thing we know, we're in the United States.
We need to start celebrating technology adoption as a really positive exercise, rather than something that's to be feared and or resisted, or only for the big guys. And we have this mindset where we absolutely celebrate our academic excellence across the country in every university. And that is so powerful. But somehow when we talk about the commercialization of research into products and services, we've got a bit of a mindset and a culture in this country where we go like this, for sure, in government. So one thing that hopefully Prime Minister Carney is going to drive is adoption of our own goddamn Canadian-made technology in the public service. And let's get on with it, because we're paying for them. And so, if we can start to get some government departments excited about deploying technology rather than going, especially if it's private sector made technology, God forbid we ever do that. If we can start to get some of the public service getting excited about the adoption and deployment of Canadian-made technologies, then that becomes infectious, and that will help the private sector come along. Because right now, just a crazy data point, the technologies we've got coming out of digital are deployed in 97 countries around the world. Every continent except Antarctica, we are working on it. And maybe 1 or 2 organizations in Canada. It's stunning when I see where we're deployed and where we have because we go where we can get deployed. And just to get deployment in British Columbia for health technology, you've got to do about 32 different submissions because procurement is done at every health authority level and then further into every hospital level. Or you can go to the NHS, make one proposal, and you're deployed in Great Britain. You decide. And so we just need to get more excited about deployment.
Albert, I know you want to jump in, and so do you, Stephanie. I'll come to you.
I go first? Okay, yeah, no, I really kind of agree with that. I think it's all about the deployment and celebrating technology. And an interesting aspect that I would like to raise are maybe the unions, which I'm used to unions in Europe. And I mean, the French unions, you can hardly get worse than the French union, I thought. But I think the thing is to discuss with the unions and really step in there that technology is something good for the people to do and not something to stop because you need to be afraid for it. Now, if you would do that, your people would get behind, and 5 years later they are totally behind and they have no chance in getting other opportunities. So get technology in there, train your people, and make it something to celebrate. And maybe the last thing to say, the reason why we don't call it AI agents at YVR, and our strategy is that all our employees should have their own agents, but we call them buddy because it should not be threatening. It's like with education or with healthcare, it's someone that is your buddy, or even, for me, what I said, the example with my children. Of course, I still read a book myself, but I also have a buddy that can help me with things. So it's not threatening, and let people celebrate it. And I think that's the only way to get the change done quickly.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one a lot. So I came back to Canada to build this here because of the talent, the ability to bring immigration. Honestly, it's a competitive advantage we have. We can bring in any culture to Canada and they can do well. It is the #1 country in the world for that still, I think. It's amazing. And Vancouver is a gem. We should be cherishing in that. So when you think about any new technology, it comes into that. But what I have seen in building, because I'm still technically a professor, so I've done this translation piece, right? And so we're 150 people. We've raised $140 million. We're a global organization in the last 4 years. So that's great. But what I have seen is that there's a massive difference, and I think there's going to be an unfair competitive advantage put to countries that allocate and think about policy with, and they're willing to annoy people. And I don't want to. Let me unpack that. They're willing to take a bet on merit, and they're willing to be a little bit messy and just get there first. And that has a very big difference in outcome, even if some people like grumble a little bit along the way. Because the alternative is just spreading the peanut butter so thin and choosing the only safe route that never annoys anyone, that nothing happens quickly. You almost have to be like pulled along by teeth. And this is the incentive structure that we have in our policy making bodies at the moment, is this massive allergy to being possibly caught out for doing anything possibly minor wrong. Like it's just, we have to just mature up a little bit and be like, no, that wasn't a really reasonable attack. They were making a good call. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's just move and get like better outcomes. And it's that switch. And there might be different ways of doing it. It might be outsourcing to third-party like advocates or merit-based assessment teams. I'm not sure, but I've been thinking about this a lot through my engagements on this, because we're going to get smoked. We're going to get absolutely smoked, even if we're the inventors of it, because Canada won't know, but the US government will, that we're the winners, or somebody else in Canada, for example. They're going to know years before the Canadian government will, despite anybody telling them, like, because they're not going to believe it because they haven't done the work. Right, so the diligence piece of understanding what's up from down, that's the responsibility of policymakers, is to actually be educated on how to move and then show the leadership to do so. We have to get that back into our system.
How do we go about attracting the capital that's needed? Yes. Too much of living by the precautionary principle.
Just a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
A little bit.
We'd rather give up a $1 billion opportunity than make a $10,000 mistake.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
In the public service.
I think the
Yeah.
numbers are much bigger than that.
Yeah, well, I
That's
just
exactly
use
it.
this as an example.
Yeah, that's right.
We got to flip that.
So,
And not roast people. right? Like the cost is that their careers get roasted
Yeah.
if they make a $10,000 mistake. And therefore, how are you ever going to have a system of risk? Like, so long as the decision was made, you should not anchor it to the outcome. If the decision was correct, great. If the outcome happened to have risk to it and it didn't go the right way, don't roast them for it. We need to keep going.
When Ronald Reagan was president of the United States, he wanted to celebrate this whole environment of ingenuity, innovation, entrepreneurship. And he said, what we wind up doing is celebrating only the success, but we don't celebrate the people who try, the people who take the chance, who step out there. Maybe they're ahead of their time, maybe they didn't do it quite right, but they draw other energy to them, and in doing so, that spurs other ideas. And we need to have that great, big, bold vision, because one of the questions that was sort of posed, is there a Team Canada advantage? And what I'm hearing right now, I'm going, okay, what do we need to do to unleash that? We got about 6.5 minutes left, so I want to ask each of you that same question. What do we have to do here in Canada to unleash the remarkable talent that we have to take advantage of this opportunity that exists right now? David, can we start with you?
Well, I mean, I guess the top and bottom, Vancouver is a draw, and our immigration system's great. So one of the big roles that Microsoft Vancouver has for Microsoft is that we're beautifully positioned in time zone with Washington and with Silicon Valley, and we can draw talent from all over the world. So Microsoft uses Vancouver as part of its talent acquisition strategy, and we host in our almost 3,000 developer community talent from all over the place. New AI talent and quantum and all sorts of things. So that's really strategic, and we should keep leaning into that. We should think about, we have incredible depth of talent in Vancouver because of the history of interactive technology and communications in Canada. But we've got to think about the upcoming generation. I mean, we're very invested in Ethos Labs, which is a youth program that does technology education for school-age kids, BIPOC youth. And it's just infusing, the significance and the kind of opportunity that is in this type of work. I think we need a really, really healthy talent ecosystem.
Albert?
Yeah, so I would say, and I'm learning a lot today from the government, and the people are being cooked or on the plate, or how did you say it? But it's interesting for me to understand the way of thinking in the Canadian government. But I would say unleash the power in your organization, and don't be your typical leader. Today I've been to a conference, and tomorrow I'm going to tell my organization how to do it, and I will give them all rules, and kind of when they make a mistake, they have to come to my office. Now, unleash the power they have, and they have a lot of ideas. Listen to them, let them use the ideas they have with AI. And then when they make a mistake, try to celebrate it, as you said.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I'd say we have the opportunity to learn from the whole world. We can take a look at all the models that seem to be working and all the ones that don't seem to be working, and we can take what we like and leave the rest. And for us, we should be able to change our ways. And I think one of the nice things, one of the silver linings of this moment in history is that we might actually collectively decide to just have a hard look at how we're working and how we want to change what we do. To make the most of, learn from all the world, learn from all the best practices around the world, and bring it together and bring it to life. I think it's a nice self-reflection period for us to go and make that all happen.
Walter?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a great discussion, thinking about the sort of vision of digital twins with AI agents operating within them. To seize that moment, I think what's great about BC is it's a relatively small ecosystem, but with a lot of talent, a very diverse economic base, and I think friendly, collaborative companies. We're not as competitive, and so I know we're doing a lot of work with YVR, with Microsoft, with third parties in collaboration. I think we could create, because it's small enough, incubate this concept of interconnected digital twins, especially if we had some funding from the provincial government, the federal government, to kick that off. So that's a thought. But I think more broadly, just to get out and start implementing AI, adopting AI, doing the things that David Adams, getting your data ready and getting on with it. So I think it's moving beyond the tinkering and talk and actually getting projects done. We've got, as I said, we have 1,000 people ready to work for you. put us to work.
David, I'm going to quote from the Microsoft report that says 2025 is the year that the frontier firm is born. It says, according to this report, a frontier firm looks remarkably different from the ones we know today. Frontier firms will be centered around on-demand intelligence and powered by hybrid teams of humans and agents. It's going to be an entirely different world, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the purpose of my keynote, was to try to explain how deeply you will wish you were not out of position if you haven't taken some action on this in 2 or 3 years. It will be like waking up in 2012 and realizing you have an offline business with fax and memo and paper. You need to get online, you need to get your data in order, deploy AI, think about the AI models that matter to your business, get that digital twin. And as Walter alluded to, when you imagine a sort of internet of agents, an interoperation of agentic businesses optimizing over quantum, it's going to be like an operating system for business, and you're going to want to be a part of that.
So there was one other element that I just want to touch on, not that I'm giving Microsoft too big of a push here, but that report was really quite eye-opening. It said that in a normal 8-hour shift, we all get interrupted about once every 2 minutes. And then you add in other interruptions before and after work. In the course of the day, no matter what you're working on, you get interrupted about 275 times. And that makes work chaotic and fragmented and stress-inducing. Agents can start to can deal with an awful lot of those interruptions and allow the human beings to focus their intelligence on what's next. Thank you to our incredible panel. I could go on for longer, but Walter's told me that I've got to wrap it up. Mark, over to you.
That was fun. That was really fun. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for tuning into Conversations Live, an Oh Boy Productions program. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can find our previous and upcoming episodes at conversationslive.ca. You can also follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Again, thank you. I'm Stuart McNish.